drivers from every discipline of racing. You've got people from karting, NASCAR,
Formula One drivers,
20-year-old super upcoming unconscious
sports car drivers from every corner of the globe.
Everybody's here. It's the who's who of racing right now.
This isn't some fantasy racing league. It's the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the Pro Bowl, the Ironman, the We Are the World of auto racing, where driver resumes read like Hall of Fame plaques. More than 100 championships representing everything with an engine. The racing season has never kicked off with a lineup like this. 2004 saw one of the most dramatic final hours in the history of the Rolex, with teams fighting to stay alive to the finish.
This year, we won't be needing this.
When the clock struck noon a year ago, Bell Motorsports took home the coveted wristwatches, and the Rolex 24 was reaffirmed as one of the premier endurance races in the world.
The Rolex race is so big. This race is now turned into the race of total champions. You got every facet of driver here, and it's off the hook.
This is going to be fun out there.
What finer way could there possibly be to end the long off season than with a gathering of some of the greatest names from across the world of motorsports? 24 hours of fun and competition on the world-famous high banks at Daytona International Speedway. Welcome to the 43rd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Without question, the driver lineup is glittering. We're not talking about guys who had a cup of coffee in stock cars or an occasional one-off in an Indy car. We're talking about some of the greatest names in motorsports. 5 NASCAR Nextel Cup champions. The last 3 Champ Car World Series Vanderbilt Cup winners. 2 IRL IndyCar titleists and the reigning champion at the Indianapolis 500. Now let's go over some of the rules of the Rolex 24. The race, of course, is 24 hours long, and the cars will race in all kinds of weather conditions, including rain. But if the race should have to be stopped for, say, visibility problems, the clock will continue to run during the red flag. There are 2 classes of cars competing, the faster Daytona prototypes, as well as the production-based GT cars. Competitors in each class are racing for the overall win, and a GT car has won this race as recently as 2002. As well as for the top spot in their respective classes. Endurance road racing is unique in that it requires more than 1 driver. Each team can have as few as 3 drivers or as many as 5. To be eligible to earn points, the driver must complete at least 1 lap under green, but he must be in the car he was entered in, and he cannot drive for more than 15 of the 24 hours, or more than 3 hours in any 4-hour period.
Well, there you see the track map. Obviously, there's no elevation change here at all. We've got 8 corners because we don't really count the banking as corners here. Turn 1 is a decreasing radius corner that comes down there. Then turn 3, the International Horseshoe. 4 is the dog leg. 5, and of course that motorcycle track comes just through there, so that it cuts their speed down as they go onto the banking. Then obviously 6 is a very important corner here because you want to get some speed up, because there's a long way down to turn 7 and 8, the chicane. And obviously you want to make a really good exit out of the chicane as well, because it's a long way from the chicane back to turn 1.
It should be a fantastic event. The energy is building and the big boys are ready to play.
Number 1, baby.
Defending champions. We're gonna do it again.
For champions only. Don't try it at home.
Let's check out our Porsche keys to the race. Dorsey?
First of all, preparation, not just the race car, your entire team to take care of anything that might happen. Hey, you hot shoe drivers, leave the ego in the motor coach. You can't race each other head to head here and win this race.
And you've got to be concentrating very hard for the whole 24 hours. You've got a lot of traffic speeds out there. It's very difficult to concentrate that hard that long. And of course, you've got to have great patience. And what's not listed on there, you've got to have a bit of luck.
Indeed. After 2 days of, frankly, fairly brutal weather with cold temperatures, rain, and high winds here at Daytona International Speedway, the projected weather for the race itself, twice around the clock, looks pretty darn good, with a high of 70, low of 53, although here's a tip, it's going to be colder than that at night. Sunset projected at 6:06, and you saw the other details there as you look out over the newly redesigned Lake Lloyd on the infield. Let's check our onboard cameras This is the number 23. Charles Espinlaw qualified it. He will start it. It is a 2005 Pontiac GTO in the GT class. On board the number 22, young Justin Marks in a BMW M3, also in GT. The sister car, the number 21 from Prototype Technology Group, will be started by Bill Auberlen, a many-time champion in Grand American Road Racing. The number 73 car, Jack Baldwin, here as an owner-driver with Baldwin Taffel Motorsports, a Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. This is the number 36, also a Porsche, in the hands of the very, very experienced Randy Popes, can you see, starting 31st. The Daytona prototype field will start ahead of the GT field. There is a former series champion, Terry Borcheller, very disappointed to be starting only 15th after qualifying. That's the defending Daytona champion car. Borcheller does not look happy. We'll try to find out why. On board one of the Porsche-powered Fab cars. The biggest winners in Daytona history were Porsche-powered. One of the Pontiac-powered cars, Jan Magnussen, starting 7th in the number 44 with NASCAR stars Bobby and Terry Labonte. This is Max Angelelli in number 10, starting 2nd on the grid for the 2nd straight year. And starting on pole, also for the 2nd year in a row, Scott Pruitt in a Chip Ganassi Racing Lexus-powered Riley. The idea of Grand American President Roger Edmondson, Jim France from the International Speedway Corporation, of cost-controlled prototype racing combined with a very close to stock GT class has basically been validated here. A 62-car field split almost evenly between prototypes and GTs. A beautiful day at Daytona International Speedway. Who could ask for more? The pace car pulls off. Scott Pruitt and Max Angelelli will start on the front row. There is the 54 car from Bell Motorsports, the Kodak car for Borcheller. He will have to pit at the start of the race. The defending champions are in the pit lane as we get set to go green.
I think he's got a gear shift problem.
The green flag waves. We are underway, and for the 2nd year in a row, Scott Pruitt will lead the field down into turn 1. Big move being made up the inside.
Little jump at the start there. Dario Franchitti in the number 2 car out of line. We'll have to see if that results in a penalty. They were told not to do that.
Now we have a split start. There go the 29 Daytona prototypes. Here come the 30-odd GT cars. And they too are now under green.
You got to be careful not to do any passing before you get to that line when the flag's shown.
We are told now there will be a drive-through penalty assessed to the 2 car for jumping the start.
That's not the way to start out today.
It's the West Horseshoe. Double apex right hand. You've got to really get on the apex where they are there. Then as you come out here, you pick up a lot of speed on this short run down to turn 6 on the turn onto the banking, which obviously is pretty important because you've got a long stretch of flat-out run in front of you.
Let's get more on the defending champions, Brian Till.
Problems early for the 54 car. I talked to Jim Bell. A brake bias problem on the cool-up or the warm-up laps. Terry Borcheller had to come in. They pumped the brakes a lot, worked on the bias adjustment knob, and sent it back out. But they don't know whether it's fixed or not. They'll find out soon, guys.
These cars are equipped with a brake bias, so it's on board with the 54. You can screw a little knob that turns, and it turns a cable which gives you either more front or rear brake. Obviously, Terry felt right away that it was jammed either front or rear, and he needed to get it fixed quick.
Yeah, you could see him fiddling with it on that onboard shot when we were looking at him, couldn't you?
Wasn't happy about it either.
No, and of course those brake bias, they are sometimes a pain because they tend to spring back. The cable gets sort of spring bound.
Watch Scott Pruitt up on the banking, the reigning co-champion in the Daytona prototype division of Grand American Rolex sports car racing. One other note on our start, one of the GT cars, the number 85 Porsche GT3 Cup in the hands of Grant Phipps, has gone behind the wall with what we are told is a very serious oil leak.
That should make it interesting on these first laps.
Not a good stage to have a serious oil leak in a 24-hour race.
On board the number 44 in the hands of Jan Magnussen. He'll share this car with Terry and Bobby Labonte from NASCAR Nextel Cup Racing and Brian Herta, a winner in both Champ Cars and the Indy Racing League.
Everybody taking a tight apex on that International Horseshoe, that long right-hander in the middle of the infield, but it's very sandy here, and when you clip those apexes there, you start kicking sand up. in another hour or two, there's going to be a lot of stuff on the track there.
That is arguably the slipperiest corner in North America.
And it has no banking at all. It has no camber at all, so it does get slippery. And of course, it gets covered in that clag very early on.
We've talked about the glittering driver lineup. We'll be following who's in the car across the top of your screen. We should point out that the mechanical diversity that's always been a part of sports car racing is here. Chassis from 5 different builders, engines from 6 different manufacturers, and that's just in the Daytona prototype division. 20 different engine and car combinations are in this race. High-speed backstretch, the super stretch at Daytona International Speedway, headed for the chicane.
The number 2 car there, driven by Dario Franchitti, under attack now from the target car. And of course, Dario, we think, is going to come in on this lap, or is supposed to come in on this lap and do a drive-through.
Car to the left of your screen is the 66 of Max Pappas, who was a teammate to our race leader Scott Pruitt last year. Now he's with a different team, Crone Racing and the Racers Group, in the first year at Daytona prototype effort.
Now, when Dario comes in, he's going to have to reduce his speed from some 150+ miles per hour down to 45 for this pit lane, and that was on the apron left side tire.
Well, you've got to be a bit careful there, putting that left side on that bit of where the banking suddenly changes the angle like that.
The 2 car is in the pit lane, making its penalty visit. While the action continues, this is the International Horseshoe, or the East Horseshoe. Very flat, in fact, off camber. Very, very tricky as the 2 car completes its drive-through and goes back out. Dorsey?
Well, we'll take a look here at the start and see they're supposed to stay in line. Look at the back of the pack right here as this car is starting to make a move. Right there, goes to the inside, down onto the apron, and you cannot improve your position to right there, start-finish line. Clearly, that move was made before.
Now, that's not the only car that's going to be penalized for jumping the start. Car number 11, a GT Ferrari 360 Challenge car in the hands of Matt Plum. We'll take a break and return live to Daytona International Speedway. Stay with us. In hour 2, problems for Pruitt on the race lead. Smoke from the back of the Comp USA car. Turned out to be an oil leak. The team thought they had it fixed, but their troubles were only beginning. In hour 3, Kurt Busch, the reigning Nextel Cup champion, had a harmless spin in his Crown Royal Ford Multimatic chassis. Bigger problem for Luis Diaz when the right rear tire went down, sending him spinning and throwing bodywork in every direction. Watch this.
It's a 190-mile-an-hour spin, that.
And that was the car that Pruitt had the oiling problem with. But the team worked hard, got him back out again. Under the yellow flag for that incident, Meyvad Wick in the 81 Porsche GT3 Cup car somehow managed to get into the back of 2 other GTP machines, and the pit crews were sent back to work again.
That was the dumb move of the day, I would say, that one.
In hour 4, Matt Kenseth, last year's NASCAR Cup champion, almost collided with a GT car, hoping to make a pit stop, and it turns out he should have. We thought he ran out of fuel on the next lap, but when the car got to the pit area, they decided it was a deeper drivetrain problem, so he went behind the wall. Tony Stewart got in the car. Look at the car jerking around with a miss. He had a look over that decided it was a problem with the traction control. Meanwhile, Luis Diaz had that big spin in the tri-oval. Well, he had a matching one. He didn't spin, but lost the bodywork on the backside. And just a short while ago, Paul Newman, 80 years young, enjoying perhaps his last professional race, had an off and on that very, very slick West Horseshoe on the infield. Here, number 10, Max Angelelli, brings the second place car in. Chris Neville is there.
Yeah, Bob, Max just brought it in a pit lane. This is going to be a pretty quick stop. Max is going to double stint this time, so he's staying in the car. They're just doing 4 new Hoosiers on the side, fueling it up. Tires are already done, so the guys are just checking over the car right now, and they're just waiting for all the fuel to go in.
4 people over the wall to work on the car. There can be 1 extra to assist the driver change, if in fact there is one. None in this case. And at the back, you see the man with the fire bottle.
Whoa!
Rush hour in pit lane. That was
Cameraman there in
Whoops.
GPS went out.
Cold tires getting colder by the minute as the temperature drops here at Daytona. That number 50 team has had an interesting adventure thus far at Daytona. That's the Black Forest Motorsports Ford Multimatic. Second Multimatic chassis built. The MVP1. Tom Nastasi, Jeff Buckner, Henry Zogay, Travis Duder, and Doug Peterson with the driver strength. There was the race leader, Tony Stewart. Just cruising now.
Just like last year.
Well, he must be about ready to make his pit stop out there.
There's the 61. Remember, we saw Dave Lacey driving around behind the trackside wall on the backstretch, trying to get back to the pits out of fuel.
Appeared as if by magic in the pit lane.
They have lost all kinds of time. They are dropping like a stone, back to 28th in the overall.
That was a shame. They were having a really good run.
5 drivers on this team. I have an email from Mike asking, how are the championship points for the drivers decided? When one team has 4 drivers, another has 3, yet another has 5. Do the drivers for the teams divide them up? No, Mike. The simple answer is, once you're entered in a car, you can only score points in that car. You could drive another car in the race, but you can't score points in it. Only the one you're entered in, and all the drivers in the car get the same number of championship points based on the finish of the car, assuming you made at least 1 green flag lap in that car. Thanks for the email. Go to speedtv.com. Give us your question.
Another one here from Brian, who says, beside the obvious, watching your rearview mirror, what are the rules determining racing lines and right of way between faster and slower cars? Well, basically, the slower cars just have to stick to their line, mind their own business, don't dart about, don't try and help too much. And so the rule of thumb on the banking is for the slower cars to stay low and let the fast cars go around the outside of you. But always somebody tries to help and always somebody screws it up big time.
Chip Oshinger from Columbus, Ohio. He writes in, greetings, gentlemen. Can you let me know what Joe Vardy and Chip Robinson are doing anymore? Both were great IMSA drivers of the 1980s. In fact, they were. I can tell you that Joe Vardy builds racing engines and still races. He raced yesterday in a preliminary bout that we had here. Didn't do all that well, but he's still driving. And I assume Chip Robinson is spending the multitudes of money.
Chip Robinson is right.
He's actually here
in this very room almost. I saw him about 2 hours ago with his wife and his child.
So
he's building houses.
We've got another Ferrari.
Porsche. Actually, he's building houses in Augusta, Georgia.
And spending all the money that Nissan paid.
It sounds like, in talking with him, which I did earlier this afternoon, I think he's starting to get the bug a little bit again.
Oh boy.
Another former winner.
You better
of
check
race.
this one. I get in trouble on that.
This is Jim McCallion, whose day job is promoting the Champ Car Long Beach Grand Prix.
Don't back up Jim now. That's a bad spot.
Oh,
you're
boy.
in. You could make it worse if you want.
Well, I hope those people on the approach to the corner taking notice of that yellow flag there. We've got to thank the marshals.
Oh, no.
The marshals, of course, do a stellar job, and of course, this is one of those races they like doing, but on the other hand, it gets pretty nippy during the night for them all.
Oh, dear. That's such an awkward position when you're here. That's just not good.
While we watch this situation unfold, well, let's take another look first at what happened to Jim McCallion. Here he comes.
Oh, way too much speed. Carries too much brake into the corner.
Does he get the end of the fence? No.
Boy, lucky Jim.
Wow. Levitas climbs out of the number 36 GT, former class. Well, they still shown as the class leader in GT.
So take a big belt in the back there, isn't it?
He did. He got into the tire wall down there and won. Brian Till is there.
Well, the damage to the car didn't affect the way it handled, but it's going to affect this pit stop. Michael Levitas could not get the door open. John Littlechild couldn't get in, and they had to pull and actually pulled a pry bar out to pry the door open. Now, once Littlechild gets in, it's going to be interesting to see whether they can get the door closed and latch. Problems didn't occur after the impact, but they're certainly having an impact on it now, guys.
Now out comes the pry bar to keep those fenders off the car. Race leader is in. Chris Neville.
That's right, Bob. Tony Stewart getting out of after his first stint here. Andy Wallace getting in, getting ready to do his second stint. We're going to have a lot of action down here in the Howard Boss pits. 20 is already in. The 2 and the 4 are going to be coming in soon, so these guys are going to be doing a lot of work here. A really great run for this team so far after that initial problem with the traction control at the beginning of the last stint. This car's really come alive, and the team is really happy about where they are.
Yeah, back at the 36 car, Michael Levitas could not get the door closed. It took a long time to get it done. Now the left rear is coming off. They're going to put some oil back in. Actually, they're using a hydraulic jacket, looks like, to pump the fender out where it was crushed in. It was going to rub on the tire. So there is a lot of work to be done on this car. It was leading when it came in. It's going to be a lot if it can still be leading when it gets back out finally, guys.
Well, it tells you that the gauge of the metal used in the fenders of these 911 Cup cars is a bit different from that you see on the Nextel Cup stock cars, where the crews just yank on it. Chris Neville, what's going on in the 2-pit?
Well, Dan Weldon just brought this car in. This is going to be a quick service. Dan's going to stay in the car. He's going to double stint this one. Tires are on. Just waiting for fuel right now. Checked in with Dario Franchitti, who's going to do the stint after Dan Weldon here. He came back down. He was really happy, just waking up from a 2-hour nap. So he's pretty excited to get in the car as it's getting dark out. And these guys just, once again, just waiting for fuel. And we should see the 4 cars
spinning up those Hoosiers on their way out. Now, here's the number 71. That was the pole-sitting car in the GT class, has led much of the race thus far. Looks like he missed the chicane on the backside, and he did exactly what you're supposed to do in order to avoid a penalty. Pull up. There is a corner worker stationed there with a lollipop that says stop on one side and go on the other. When the cars that you were approaching have passed, they will send you on your way. And the 36 has gone back out as well. On board with Andy Wallace, just giving those belts a little extra tug.
These hard compound tires, which are cold when you put them on. The track's pretty cool now. You've got to be very careful that first lap or two while you get the tires up to temperature.
Meanwhile, the number 4 Pontiac Crawford with Jimmy Johnson has taken over the race lead. There's Tony Stewart. Let's go to Chris Neville.
Tony, great early stint there. Some problems with the traction control right when you left, but you got the thing back on point pretty quick.
Yeah, when I went out, the car wouldn't go over about 5,200 revs, and we're having some radio problems. I couldn't really hear Max very well. I think we figured it out. It's just underneath the tent. It's not transmitting very well, and they got out and told me to turn the master switch, not just the ignition switch. So when I found the master, got it shut off and reset, it was fine. It went back to its normal self, but we gave up a lot of precious time there. Got a caution to get us bunched up there, and got the lead back. So hopefully we can keep it.
What was going on with Angelelli?
Well, they call him Mad Max. There's a reason for that. I mean, 3 wide at that part of the track. I'm going to say I like it, actually, because that's something I do. So I didn't expect it, but that was something fun. I mean, to know that we were running that pace with him, he's one of the best here. So if we can hang the pace with him, I got 2 team drivers that are faster than me, so I think we're going to be in good shape.
Good job. Go get some rest. Thank you.
That was
well,
fun.
he says they're faster than him, but if they are faster than him, there's not much faster. He was cranking out a lot of 48s there.
I agree with his comment. I mean, he would do the very same thing, and so he appreciates it being done.
I love it. Jiminy Cricket was the conscience on his shoulders saying, wait a minute, Smoke. We'll be back to Daytona in just a moment. Started on a nice sunny afternoon. Scott Pruitt on the pole. Max Angelelli alongside, and further back, about halfway up the back, there was Dario Franchitti picking up 2 spots before he got to the green flag. So he paid a penalty for that with a drive-through. The race was barely 30 minutes old when Champ Car titleist Sebastian Bourdais entered turn 1 a little too quickly in Paul Newman's car and spun. Meanwhile, Franchitti was learning the nuances of Daytona International Speedway by watching them go flying over his windscreen at speed. Under the yellow flag brought out by Bourdais' spin, Chris Dyson was abruptly hit up the back by Mike Borkowski. That car was in the pits for a long time. Second hour, problems began for the pole sitter and early race leader. Pruitt's car began smoking intermittently. That was traced to a slow oil leak that the team thought they had fixed. In hour number 3, Nextel Cup champion Kurt Busch spun the Crown Royal car harmlessly. They got back underway. It was a bit more dramatic when Luis Diaz blew a tire. It spun in the tri-oval, didn't hit anything, but lost the bodywork fore and aft. This is what it was like on board.
Boy, that must have been pretty scary. That didn't hit a thing, but something obviously broke or whatever at the back, and it ripped the bodywork off.
It was spectacular to watch. I wonder that yellow
this
flag.
This is the one I can't believe. The way the speed that 80 car was going, this is under caution.
81 of Mavon Wick right there. Ran right into the back of 2 other GT Porsches.
One of which was the Lizard car, which is now right out of contention. Was right up there.
Long pit stops all around. Into the 4th hour. Watch Matt Kenseth, last year's Nextel Cup champion. Whoa, headed for the pit lane. I think he might have been blinded by the light. Almost got into the Horizon Motorsports Porsche. He could not complete that lap. Some kind of driveline trouble. He thought he had run out of fuel, but they wound up having to take a very long pit stop to get it fixed. Tony Stewart, in his first stint, couldn't get the car up on the cams the way he wanted to. It turned out it was a problem with the electronic traction control. Tony fixed it and went pounding into the race lead. Hour 5, more problems for Diaz. This time the rear body work comes off again, no doubt due to the damage in the earlier incident. Paul Newman in his first stint got down into that very tricky West Horseshoe and slithered off the track. Hour 7 of the GT class, the class leader, Michael Levitas, his Porsche sideways into the wall. Remarkably, the car was not heavily damaged. He was able to continue. Into hour 8, Andy Wallace coming up behind the 18, the red car of Steve Ivankovic. He gets off the track and on around he goes, and Wallace just barely squeezes by. And that was a moment for more than one car.
Absolutely. Look at them all just squeezing by because they can't see him around that corner.
And look at all those gouges in the sod at the track side. We had a lot of rain earlier this week. Still quite damp over there on the grass. Cars have been suffering for it. Lead battle now. Butch Leitzinger, I mentioned he was creeping up on the race leader, turning 149s. Now they are nose to tail. Darren Manning has rear view mirrors full of Butch Leitzinger. Will he get him here? Oh, he's got traffic ahead. And that high-speed left-hand kink.
Yeah, he decided again that he couldn't go around the outside because of that GT car.
Now that's
given Darren Manning another few seconds of breath. Here they are coming to the West Horseshoe.
That's experience speaking right there. Leitzinger's a veteran. He knows Darren Manning is a rookie here at Daytona. He knows he's got those 2 GT cars that may not be watching their mirrors. You just don't want to chance that. And there he gets him. Coming out from behind that GT car, he jumped just as they exited up onto the banking, and Butch Leitzinger takes over the race lead.
I tell you, Butch Leitzinger is one of those drivers who over the years has been vastly underrated. He is very, very good driver.
Another second-generation racing star showing his stuff here at Daytona. We'll take a quick break and return with more live from the World Center of Racing.
Let's bring you up to date with what's going on. In the 4th hour, watch Matt Kenseth here, and the car that's caused his most recent yellow, the Horizon Pontiac. Kenseth was blocked. He thought he had enough to go around, and suddenly the entry to pit lane evaporated. They had a drive line issue, and Matt could not make it back to the pit box. We thought it was fuel initially. Speaking of big NASCAR stars, Tony Stewart climbed aboard the Sitco machine for his first time. He had traction control issues. They thought it was more, but it was an easy fix. Diaz in the middle of this with that rear body cowling flying off. He had to return to the pits, and they addressed that problem in the 6th hour. Paul Newman, Hollywood star, had an off-track excursion, but similar to Dario Franchitti, came away unscathed. Mike Levitas, the reigning SGS champion, he had a scary moment. Watch this, but he got out of it, no worries. Bang! The Agilent Porsche got out of it okay. He was leading the class, and continued to. Can you believe that? In the 8th hour, take a look at this, a lucky escape for the Sitco Crawford. This is Steve Ivankovic spinning, and Andy Wallace just got by. So too did these cars. That was the Orbit. Riley almost clouded the back of the chase. Open wheel star Paul Tracy had this to contend with as he limped back to pit lane in his time. He's enjoying it though in the Kodak Easy Share car. And Jan Lammers, a beautiful 360 and kept going. That's the kind of escape you want to see, but Dario Franchitti not so lucky. Slams the side of one of the assailants' Porsches. That put a flat and a damaged rear right. He jumped from the car and handed it over to Milcaduno. Bobby Labonte, he went round Jan Lammers style. Ended up on the grass, not a problem. Race leader, Elliot Forbes Robinson. It was very special actually to spend some time with EFR yesterday. Such a laid-back guy anyway, but he almost had this amazing calm about him and said, look, we're not going to do anything special tomorrow. We've told Jimmy what lap times we want to run. We know that Butch and I can do them. If we get into a groove, don't do anything special, stay out of trouble. He said, I think we have a really good chance.
He is a great guy to have as a teammate. He was my teammate for quite a while in Dyson Racing, and there's nobody with more experience than EFR has, and you're right. He's cool as a cucumber. He doesn't make mistakes. He brings your car back that is as fresh as when it rocked out of the transfer.
The 2004 season possibly didn't get off to the best start for those guys, and it was a long time coming before they achieved their one and only DP victory. That was at Birmingham, Alabama. It brought much relief and excitement for the team and gave them a little extra spring in their step. They lead to the tune of 7.5 seconds over Court Wagner. Emmanuel Collard for SunTrust Racing sits third. And I just wonder who will win this race as far as the power plant, Dorsey. In the first year it was Ford with the Multimatic, but that was early days before any of the other new constructors and engine manufacturers came on board. It was nowhere near the level of competition that it is now. Pontiac won last year with Bell Motorsports, and you have to say Pontiac has been the dominant power plant here today so far.
But I tell you what we saw last year in the racing was that any of these power plants is definitely capable of winning a race. Now, a 24-hour race, who knows? I mean, you've got an Infiniti that's brand new.
Yeah.
You can't count any of these out. Like you say, we've had more leaders in this race right now, and we're just at halfway, or not even at halfway, than we had of the entire race last year, and this is by far not over.
As far as percentage of the time in front or at the front, this has been the best Lexus, the 02, the Stefan Johansson, Jamie McMurray, Court Wagner car, the new Century Mortgage Daytona prototype. Great to see a new sponsor in the Rolex Sports Car Series, and I know that New Century are very excited to be associated with Chip Ganassi Racing.
Isn't it neat to see all the things glowing, the rotors glowing, the exhaust headers glowing, the exhaust system all from behind? Each of these drivers, as he drives and you look at the back of another car, you're looking right through all that. It's really, really mesmerizing.
That illustrated the distance, the margin, second to third. Collard has some ground to make up on Court Wagner, but they're into a good rhythm as well. And so too the 20 of Andy Wallace, Tony Stewart, and Jan Lammers. They maintain their fourth ahead of Max Pappas. In the lead, Krone, TRG, Pontiac powered Riley. That's how the top five sit. Then it's the Dixon Manning, Casey Mears, 03 Target Ganassi car. There it is right there in behind and pressing hard. However, they are a lap down. There's Tony Stewart communicating with Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy is obviously set to go, so EFR is coming in any moment. And Jimmy's first stint earlier today was perfect. No mistake, good run, good lap times. I just heard Tony there saying, I'm guessing, so.
He's got the crash test dummy helmet on. I don't know if that's right.
And one of the TRG cars is in trouble, the 64 machine.
Headed around the backside of the wall, the long road back to the pits. Safely. Or he could be going fishing.
Miguel Amarai behind the wheel.
That is a new road now that you can take to get back into the back part of the garage area versus try to make it on the racetrack.
And that is the long way home, that's for sure. in excess of 312 laps complete so far. Last year, 526 for the entire race, and that was the lowest number of laps ever in the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and you may remember why. It rained for 18 hours of the 24 last year, and we had a period where the race was stopped. But these guys are stopping for no one. Howard Boss Motorsports, the Boss snowplow car, is leading and leading well, and Jimmy Johnson, Nextel Cup star, about to climb aboard. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rolex 24 at Daytona. We continue on, and this will be a sprint to the finish, and boy, have we got a race at the front. It's round one of the 2005 Rolex Sports Car Series, but this is one of America's marquee motorsport events. And look at the crowd still here, the campground, the smoke rising, and plenty of enthusiastic sports car fans have been treated to a night of action, that's for sure. When we farewelled you last night at 11 Eastern, we'd completed 317 laps. We're now up to 584, and the 4 Howard Boss car leads. There's still a Howard Boss car in front, but it is Tony Stewart, Andy Wallace, and Jan Lammers who lead the way, and the head-to-head fight is between those two cars. The 20, the 10, the rival constructors, same power plant, they are going hard at it. The revelation of the night has been the 77 Doran, the Lexus-powered Doran of Fabrizio Golan, Matteo Bobbi, and Didier Tays, a former winner of this event. The best of the Ganassi cars, the 03 of Darren Manning, Scott Dixon, and Casey Mears, they're still in it as well in 4th place, and some problems for our leader when we said goodbye last night. We're going to roll through these results and bring you up to date with the top 30. And you can see on that page there, our lead GT car is up to 11th place overall. That is fantastic effort from the Farnbacher USA team, and heading that Wolf Hensler, but Dominic Farnbacher has done a tremendous job as well. The 66, Oliver Gavin, the Krone Racing TRG Daytona prototype. It was high, it was in the top 3, top 5 for the majority of the opening stint until we said goodbye late last night. They've dropped down the order somewhat, and we will document their woes a little later. Heartbreak for the 2, Marino and Dario Franchitti, Milka Duno and Dan Weldon sliding down the order in 21st place, and it was an incident earlier on this morning which we will explain for you as well. And sadly at the bottom of that page in 30th position, they're out of it now, the 36, the TPC Porsche. They're in 2nd spot and involved in an incident. But we have a fantastic race at the front of this field during the night. This happened at 1:30 in the morning. Sadly, it was last year's Rolex 24 winner, and they retired the 54 out. Car owner Forrest Barber tells us why.
Just had a heat spike late in the session, or about 10 hours into it, and then started building a little engine heat. Wound up with the losing power and had to withdraw the car to start leaking fluids.
At 2:21 in the morning, the 4 Howard Boss machine, a regular race leader, regular front runner, was forced to go inside the garage, and that man there, Butch Leitzinger, explains.
It sounded like it broke a header, and it started to gradually lose power and some smoke out of the cockpit. And I don't know if that was just from the header, or maybe the heat from the header might have done some more damage beyond that.
At 2:24, the 66 Krone Racing TRG Daytona prototype forced behind the wall. New car, new team, but it's been a good race.
Replacing the drive shaft, changing the brakes, and doing any other sort of housekeeping work that we can do right now to just make sure that we can, if we can, run to the end.
Less than an hour later at 3:15 this morning, the 59 of Hurley Haywood took a ride on the wild side.
I went through the fast kink, that's flat out turn, and I went to get on the brake, and the brake pedal just went all the way down to the stop. so meaning I had no brakes at all, no brakes. So I didn't want to hit the guardrail head on, so I turned the car to see if I could spin it through the grass. And I just, I had so much speed there that I spun through the grass and through the pavement on the way from between 5 and 6 and collected the Red Bull 911.
And just an hour after, at 4:17 this morning, the hearts of the SunTrust team sank. A scary moment for Emmanuel Collard. Traffic will always be an issue at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and it certainly was for the 10. It forced the team to go to work, but they're okay, and Manny explains why.
I had a contact with the Porsche. I was overtaking him on the inside, turn 5, and he didn't see me. He closed the door. I was in the grass, and this was the corners.
The star lineup for Ganassi, Manning, Dixon, and Casey Mears. This car was forced to go behind the wall at 4:30 this morning. Talk about teamwork. Look to the left of your screen. Here's Scott Dixon jumping in to help the crew members out. It was all hands on deck. And that car's still very much in the race in 4th outright. So, let's have a look at the notable DNFs. After a very good effort from last to first in class, the Aussies are out in the 0-0 machine. The 2, Dario Marino, Frank Kitty, and Milcaduno, they're gone. Dan Weldon in that car as well, and that was an incident just before we came on air, about an hour before we came on air. Contact. The 2 PTG BMWs, they're gone, and it was contact between the 2 and the 36 of Mike Levitas, Randy Popes, and those guys that put the 2 and the 36 out. Unfortunate. Apparently, it was avoidable, but never mind. The Orbit car for Jim Matthews and his team, they're out as well after a stunning performance in the opening half. And the 51, you heard the explanation from Hurley Hayward. It was the 59 and 51 coming together. The reigning champ's gone, and of course, Paul Newman's car out as well. All right, let's give you a big overview, the race summary. And you talk about it, it was only 2 years ago that we only had 6 Daytona prototypes here, and a little bit of a yawn. We've had 8 different cars that have led, 16 different drivers. Sensational stuff, and 40 lead changes. That's a record for the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and we've spent 55 laps under yellow. That is about to come to a close right now as we crank it up, and the SunTrust team with Emmanuel Collard behind the wheel fires it up, and we are inside the final 4 hours.
And Wayne Taylor gave up a key bit of information, and if Crawford were listening, they know now that the front end of the 10 is damaged. It's got understeer. That should not have been said probably on television, but Wayne wasn't thinking that after driving all night long, was he?
And look at this, 2 classic road racers, 2 highly skilled guys going at it at the front. Calvin said in his pit report earlier that Max Crawford said the race hasn't begun. Well, where do you see it beginning, Dorsey?
I think it just begun. I mean, once you got the leader in sight, as the 20 does right now, and knowing, and I bet you they were on the television listening when Wayne said that the front of that car is not in alignment. It's got a lot of understeer. If that's the case, you pressure now. You wear him out right now.
And that's what Andy Wallace has to do. Just stick with him. Just stay with Collard.
Pound him. Make him go into the corners deep and use those front tires up. If the alignment's off and it's understeering, it's going to put a lot of undue wear on the front.
You can see the other Howard Boss, Pontiac Crawford behind this man here. His good friend, longtime co-driver and teammate in Butch Leitzinger in the 4. He's running 5th place at the moment and many laps down.
All that being said, Emmanuel Collard is just driving away. Now that is okay. I mean, right now everybody's on brand new tires again, and it's going to be 3 or 4 laps before anything starts to show up on a reduction in speed. All looks happy right now with the SunTrust car, though.
That's a good strong run, isn't it? And that certainly is the revelation of the night. The 77 car there, ex-Formula 1 test driver, FIA GT star, Matteo Bobby for Doran Racing, and that is the Lexus-powered Doran to be in 3rd outright and only 5 laps out of the lead. Look at this, Wallace putting the pressure on Collard.
And that really shows the difference in these two chassis. We've said it all along. The Crawford, a very, very sleek, high-speed type of car. On the other hand, the Riley, it makes good downforce, and this is where it should be quick on this infield. But boy, he made up a lot of ground on that straightaway.
The two Pontiac-powered cars, the difference is the chassis. We've got a Lexus-powered Daytona prototype in third. If something was to go amiss for these two, and the Lexus was victorious, we would have 3 different engine manufacturers winning in the first 3 years of Daytona prototypes at the Rolex 24. Ford won the first year, Pontiac won last year. Lexus had to wait a long time for their first regular race win. Could this be their 24-hour victory today? Something would need to go wrong for these two very strong teams up front. One guy who's enjoyed the Rolex 24 is with Chris Neville.
That's for sure, Lee. Bobby Labonte down here. Bobby, just less than an hour ago, the 44 was running in third, just a couple laps down. You guys have dropped down the pole to 7th now, 4 laps down. What's going on with the car?
Well, I think gearbox are out. They did a great job changing it in a pretty quick period of time. And, you know, Jan was, you know, flying it at that point in time. And that's by the time I dozed off. And so Brian's in it now, and, you know, hopefully nothing else happens.
Earlier in the night, you were behind, or you were in front of Hurley Haywood when he had that incident. What did you see?
Well, I just passed him at the lap before, and he came by me. You know, I knew something had to happen because he came by me on the inside, like he's in the grass, obviously. And he cleaned out one of them Porsches like it was, you know, something happened. And, you know, fortunately, I guess I didn't get hurt, but it was a pretty big wreck.
This is your first drive at the Rolex 24. 20 hours into it, what's your impression?
You know, still about the same. I'm still enjoying it, and you know, I hope that we can, you know, get our little Pontiac back up there, and you know, finish a little better where we are right now, maybe.
Well, the 44 is back on track with Brian Herta behind the wheel.
40 lead changes, make it 41 lead changes. We've got a new car up front, the 20. Andy Wallace back in front in the Howard Boss Motorsports Sitco Crawford. Now what's Collard got for him? Will Andy drive away? Can Emmanuel stay with him?
Well, I think what you're going to see is Andy's going to drive away. And the reason I say that is that the 10 car, if it's on the front end, it's good on the infield, but it won't be for long. We can show a replay of what happened. And it's a typical situation. We've said that Crawford is so strong on top end. Fastest place to do it, down into the trioval. Good draft by right here, moves to the inside. Nothing Manuel could do about that except watch it happen. Now the problem with the 10 is that he's only going to be really, really fast. Right on board here, you'll see how much. Look at the closing rate. He's up in the draft right now, just getting the full benefit of the 10's wake. Pops out, a lot more speed, nothing to be done there. Driving on down into turn 1. The 10 with the wore out, with the out of a line front end is only going to be good for a short period of time on the infield until the front tires get too hot and starts to understeer. Then he loses the advantage to the 20. The 20 then just starts distancing. Watch right here on the straightaway. The 20 will just get some big legs right here.
And watching the background, here comes Butch Leitzinger. This is the sister car, and this can help, although it's not on the lead lap. If Butch can round up Collard and slot in front of him. Oh, it's close. This is not a positional pass, but it's certainly a strategical pass, because Butch will just sit in there now and allow Andy Wallace to creep away a little bit. The Crawford crew loving that.
Tony's liking it. Look at it.
There's Catherine Crawford to the right-hand side, and Dave Bruley in the background is the team owner of the 4 car, along with Rick Howard as well. So they are feeling buoyant. They're feeling in a strong position, and why wouldn't they? They're leading the way with less than 4 to go. The gap now less than 1 second. Emmanuel Collard has brought the fight back to Andy Wallace. The Sitco Crawford up against the SunTrust Riley. Both cars on the lead lap. These guys will fight it out for victory in the final 3 hours of the Rolex 24.
I think the call has been given to Emmanuel Collard. Go, it's time to attack. And you see he's made up a second a lap now for the last 3 or 4 laps.
Here we go, battle for the lead, and we've got our 40-second lead change. Collard in the SunTrust car, back out in front. Is it strategy from Crawford or not? Now they go side by side. Look at this, 21 hours into this race, and they are battling door to door for the lead.
Now, did Max Crawford just get on the radio and say, don't let that happen, it's time to go? I think that's what's gone on.
Well, this is it. They're basically almost inside the window of a normal sprint race distance.
The attack is on.
We know that they can just go flat out for 2 hours 45, flat out for 3 hours. And that's what we're going to see.
Now you're going to see something. Now these guys they've pulled the gloves off and said, let's have it. Let's go down. We know that the Crawford's better here on the straightaway, but Collard's going to be really attacking the brake zone down here in turn 1. Watch this.
The previous lap, Collard laid down a 1:49.5. That is a very quick lap time after 21 hours of racing. Now Wallace has responded, though.
And I'm sure that's what's happened. That both of them have been given the word now. And you're right, 3 hours, it's a doable deal.
They just go for it from here. Remember, the two guys, I should say, that will strap in. Jan Lammers, who we've seen already in this race, is so fast. What an endurance driver he is. And then Max, the Axe Angelelli, will climb aboard the SunTrust car. Let's not forget the 03 Target Ganassi entry of Darren Manning, Casey Mears, and Scott Dixon. They're fourth, and they are honing in on third place because the Doran is in trouble. Speaking of Scott Dixon, let's hear from him.
Scott, you're certainly in catch-up mode right now, but Darren seems to have one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. Do you have any idea as to the situation with the brakes and all of the other issues that you had during the night?
From what I know, I think the brakes are fine again. It's just a shame. We've been one of the fastest cars even through the night. We got back to the lead, and then we had that brake issue, which sort of dropped us back and lost a lot of laps. So I don't know. Hopefully they have a few braking issues themselves, and we can get those laps back. But it's still a long ways to go. 3 hours, and hopefully we'll move ahead.
Is this event helpful for you in terms of getting prepared for the IRL season? You're going to go on 3 road courses this year. You've done a little bit of testing. This is a good tune-up for all you boys?
Not really. It's totally different from what we do, but as a team, it's great because we all get together, even all the boys from NASCAR. So it's a lot of fun and kind of like having a reunion each year, and it's good to see, some of the different things they do.
All right, mate. Well, good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Cheers, Scott. Let's go down to Chris Neville, who has the story down pit lane.
Cal, I'm down with Bill Riley. Bill, since the last yellow, you've really been shadowing the 20 car. It looks like right now you guys are starting to attack. Are you changing the strategy?
No, we're just putting Manu in, and we're just going to go after the 20 car and give it all we can get. We have 4 hours left, so we want to get a big lead. In case something happens, we might have to make an extra stop than they have to do.
The car looks so strong on the infield right now. What's holding it back up on the oval?
The underside of the car is pretty beat up, and it's really slowing it down.
Well, these guys also put a lot of downforce in this car prior to the race. So with the damage they sustained on the bottom and the aero downforce, they just don't have the speed up on the oval. But boy, does he look strong on the infield.
A lot at stake here too. We've made Darren Manning getting in there pretty hot. We've made a big deal about the engine manufacturers and Ford winning the first Rolex 24 at Daytona for Daytona prototypes, as Collard has a sniff again on the inside. Look at this. You can't ask for it to be any closer. Good exit in the corner, but watch Andy Wallace up high here. He'll respond.
And although not on the same lap, Darren Manning wants a piece of this action too. Don't believe he doesn't.
Just to finish off that point, there's a lot at stake too for the chassis constructors. Multimatic won the first Daytona prototype 24-hour. Doran won the next one. Who will do it here? Will it be Crawford on the left, or will it be Riley on the right? Collard gets the run through traffic.
Yeah, there was traffic there, but I figured the Riley was going to do that anyway. It's got more downforce, thus it can brake a little bit deeper. But here's the easy part of this equation. All you got to do now is hammer down the throttle, and the 20 is going to catch up somewhere around the tri-oval and make a pass. You just watch.
We heard Bill Riley say, Dorsey, we've just got to take the fight to the 20. Is that to force them into making a mistake? Is it to raise the intensity, to hope their machinery breaks? What?
Well, the 20 is fast where it doesn't cost the car anything. Watch here. All he's got to do is keep the throttle buried. It's a much harder situation for the 10 to make up that ground on the infield because he's using a lot more tire and he's using a lot more brake to get there. But he did hold him off that time.
This is the largest gap that Collard has had. It's always been a little bit tit for tat. 21 down, 3 hours to go. Let's bring you up to date. There was plenty happening in the night time, and look at this, the Howard Boss team having to go to work after a collision out on track with the 36 TPC Porsche, and that's why they have slid down the order. That's the other side of the equation. There's always two sides to any story, and that's what the boys look like. There's Mike Levitas, that's the team principal, very hands-on man, and he was not expecting to be in that position at this stage of the race. Heartbreak for those guys. The 44. We spoke with Bobby Labonte earlier. Kevin Doran's men had to go to work after they're in such a high position, and Jan Magnussen has been the key motivator in that team. In the 21st hour, the scrap, the fight for the lead could not be any better. After the pit stops, Collard led, but then Wallace responded straight away. Tony Stewart, Dave Bruley, Catherine Crawford, they were delighted. And then just moments ago, look at this, the same two guys, the same two cars going hard at it, but Collard read the traffic better, slipped up the inside of Wolf Hensler, and Andy Wallace had to concede. Let's bring you up to date with some notable non-finishers. One of the front-running GT cars early on, they're gone, the 00 Aussie Assault car. The two, we just saw it in the pit box in the garage, heavily damaged. Dario Franchitti and his gang gone. So too both the PTG BMWs, they went out before we went off air last night. The 36 TPC car, the reigning champions of the Rolex 24, Terry Borchella, Christian Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy. The 54 went out with overheating problems early this morning at about 1:30, and Paul Newman, Sebastian Bourdais, and Cristiano De Matter out as well. Chris.
Lee, the 10 just came into pit lane. Manny Collard staying in to double stint here. This is going to be fuel and tires on this stint. You know, they say how badly damaged this car is. It's got to be mostly underneath the car because the top side of it looks pretty good. Real good stop here. They're just cleaning the windshield, waiting for the fuel, and they're going to get Manny back out on the racetrack.
Geez, Slick. He made a couple of minor errors last year here at this race, and I mean, not that everyone's bulletproof here, especially at this event, but he's been spot on this year, hasn't he?
No, that's really a good job these guys have done. We're talking about the preparation standpoint. These guys just repaired a car that was so badly damaged, did it the most expedient way, and that's how you win this thing. Albeit he can't knock the nose off again because they can't repair it twice.
Yeah.
But boy, did he show some speed that stint, running down the 20 from behind.
Collard resumes the battle. A brand new car for this year's season. After they learned so much about what Daytona prototype racing was about. They set the new benchmark, really. Bill Riley, Max Crawford. They've learned a lot, and look out in 2005. Coming back with a fresh car, fresh engine, new ideas, and a whole season under their belts.
These two teams, this and the Crawford team, had such an engineering tussle last year. I mean, every single race we went to, there were improvements made between race meetings, and they'd show up with a new this and a new that, and they'd pick up a little speed here and pick up a little speed there, and they really showed the whole field what it's all about.
Well, that is absolutely no disrespect to the other manufacturers as well, because Kevin Doran took the fight back then. Some of that rear bodywork looked loose there, didn't it?
I think it did as well, yeah.
Right near the rear spoiler.
Have to keep an eye on that, make sure it doesn't come loose.
We've already seen one rear deck lid go flying with Luis Diaz right there, in fact, yesterday. There's a problem there. That car looks a little loose.
A little wiggle there. Yeah, I didn't like that wiggle at all either.
Something's going on at the rear of the SunTrust Pontiac Riley.
That has a rear spoiler on that piece. It's the piece on the back right through here.
Look, Dawes, you can see where it's loose.
And when it's loose, it's upsetting the aero balance at the back. It can actually rear steer the car. And right in here, you see it. Didn't go too good that time. He was moving too fast for him. That got thrown out of art school. You know what am I going to tell you?
Let's keep a close eye on this, because this could be a pivotal moment if something goes wrong for Emmanuel Collard. Getting caught up in traffic there, had to switch and change very quickly. Come on, Dawes, get your squiggly wiggly out again and show us.
I got to slow Emmanuel up a little bit so I can do this properly.
Well, here you got the slowest turn on the course here, and it's on our side. Watch where that
look there. It's just a bit askew. The other side is missing altogether, that back panel. On the right rear side, it's missing the down panel. and that is probably as a result of contact with someone.
Race leader, Andy Wallace in the 20, Sitco Crawford. And we will show you the gap back to the SunTrust Pontiac Riley. Andy goes into turn 1.
Ooh.
And there's the SunTrust car. So less than half a lap. And Collard needs to get hustling. It just simply looks to me, not that I'm not much about that, but it just looks like the clip isn't done, is it?
Well, I think the way that clip works, it's two position. You can let it off, and then you've got to lift it off. And it's on the let off position right now, which means the little hook is still grasping, but it is coming loose.
How much is that affecting him?
The movement's affecting him a lot, because that thing moving around like that tugs away at the back of the car. It's like sticking your hand out the window at over 100 miles an hour, and just your little hand, and you can barely hold your arm out. Imagine that pound.
Well, we've been paying plenty of attention to the top two. Let's talk about our third car in Daytona prototype and overall. Didier Tays, Fabrizio Golan, and Matteo Bobby for Doran Racing. They've done a stunning job so far, Chris Neville.
Lead down here with Matteo. He just handed over the car to Didier Tays. Matteo, you're going to run all season long in the Rolex series. Running third right now in the first race is going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, so far so good. We did, I think, a quite good race today. And now we have some trouble with the electronic stuff, so I think it's quite difficult to keep the third position, but it's okay. The championship is still long, so it's just first race for us, so we have to learn many things.
Well, he and Fabrizio are going to contest the entire championship, so if these guys can at least get a top 5, that's going to set them up good for championship points all year long.
Well, he was last year's FIA GT top man, and that is yet another example of how the depth of the field and driver talent just continues to grow and impress in the Rolex Sports Car Series, and they'll add a lot to this championship. And no doubt Kevin Doran is excited about having 2 top-line Europeans in his team for the new season. But can anyone catch the diminutive Brit? Andy Wallace is a fighter. You rejoin us to a new race leader, and Emmanuel Collard has just blown by Andy Wallace. We're kind of scratching our heads seeing if anything went amiss in the 20 pit stop. It didn't seem like it. It was around about a 40-second pit stop, Dorse, but to the advantage of SunTrust.
They might just be taking time and looking things over really good, because we're down to a sprint race right now with 3 hours or so to go. But the length of the 2 pit stops was about, there's quite a bit of difference there.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the Howard Boss pit stop. Calvin was there. I mean, Cal, did you see anything strange or?
No, it looked routine. I mean, they're basically waiting on fuel at the end of it. I mean, no driver change snafus, because obviously Andy stayed in the car. I mean, they just slapped a fresh set of Hoosier tires on there. So, I mean, I don't know whether maybe Andy just got some traffic on his in-lap. Collard got a good out-lap. Maybe that was the difference. But I spoke to Max about fuel strategy. He said, we're trying to stretch it. I don't totally understand that, because they're really good to go on just 2 more stops the rest of the way. But maybe that'll just give them a window if there was a yellow or a caution period, which would allow them to gain some time there. But I spoke to him earlier when 10 car really started to make some ground and took the lead. I said, what's going on? Is there a problem with the 20 car? He said, no, we're just trying to decide if we want to be chased or we want to be the chaser.
Hey, mate, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you know what the deal is with the flashing headlights?
No, I don't know whether it's a mode. I'll check into whether a mode the drivers can have just so that alerts, the traffic when they're coming up behind them. But I'll check into it.
Yeah, we've noticed it. I mean, it was on there during that pit stop. We've seen it when there's no traffic in front to warn the other cars. Seems a little odd.
Well, we saw it last night. We saw it yesterday afternoon in the middle of the race with the flashing. At first you think it's a warning to a driver in front, but at one point in the race, the 20 was by itself, no car around, and that was going on. So I bet you there's a mode in there. They're doing something that makes that happen.
Collard is enjoying a 10-plus second lead over this man, Andy Wallace. It is Didier Tays for Doran Racing in third. Then it's the first of the Ganassi cars, the 03. Then it's the 4, Howard Boss Motorsports machine with Jimmy Johnson, Elliott Forbes Robinson, and Butch Leitzinger. the second Ganassi car of Johansson, McMurray, and Kurt Wagner running in 6th. Chris.
Lee checked in with Bill Riley on that rear clip, and he said that's most likely from the damage they sustained last night. He's not too worried about it. I asked him if Manny has been saying anything on the radio. He said, yeah, he's been talking, but he's French, and we can't understand him, so we're not too worried.
We just bring him in. He's little and he's fast.
Well, what was the octave of his voice? And was like, wee, 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 wee. That's bad if it's like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was just giving you a brief rundown of our top 10 overall and in Daytona prototypes. Credit to the Farnbacher guys. They are GT, and they're in 11th outright, so they're having a stunning run. I got as far as 6th, which was the combination of Johansson, McMurray, and the third driver is Kurt Wagner. He's standing by.
And he's saying he wants a Rolex. And Kurt, great stint out there. Talk about the first race that you've had with Chip Ganassi Racing and this organization. What kind of experience has it been for you?
Very impressive team. I mean, all these guys go about their business. There's no egos. They all get their job done. It's pretty amazing. It's a really, you can tell why their success in racing has come such a long way. I mean, New Century Financial, Chip Ganassi, these guys are an incredible partnership. I mean, having worked with these guys for the last week and come here and testing, you got to mind your P's and Q's and just put your head down and do your job. All these guys, no one raises a voice. They just get their job done. There's no egos. I mean, everything goes really, really well. You know, had we not had a little bit of water in our fuel or something that happened in the middle of the night, we'd be fighting for the podium right now. I mean, it's been a real flawless run.
Talk about the changing car last year in a Duran with the BMW power with the G&W team. This year, Lexus Riley. Is that difficult to get used to? I know when you came here testing, you said it's not the same. Are you now in a rhythm? You're running some good lap times, certainly in the race this morning.
Yeah, I mean, you know, basically, as you know, you're a racer. I mean, you drive the wheels on anything. You slide it through a corner, you slide it through a corner. You just find the limits as quickly as you can and try to stay there for 24 hours. So, you know, the Riley and Scott definitely has a little bit of advantages over the Doran in certain areas, and in certain areas, the Doran's very good as well. So, you know, it's just kind of a melting pot of chassis and motors, and that's what makes this whole series so great. I mean, Jim France's concept about, you know, different chassis and different motors and trying to make them all equal, aka NASCAR, you know, has really worked in sports car racing. As you can see, I mean, there's 30 of these things, and 20 of them are probably still running, and, you know, it's just great wheel to wheel all night long, and there's a couple of tenths here and a couple of tenths there, and the guy pulls away from you on the banking, and then you get him under braking because your car's a little better here, and then his is a little better there, so it's great.
All right, mate, well, good job. You can tell he's still got the hand actions going, Lee, but the voice doesn't quite have the bark. We're about 20 hours in this morning.
Well, that tells the story, doesn't it? Kurt Wagner's one of the fittest guys in this field, and look how tired he looks. This race takes its toll. It really takes it out of you. We'll come back, we'll give you a rundown, we'll highlight who's in what position when we return. The countdown continues. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. We continue on with just a hair over 2 hours remaining, and this head-to-head battle continues between the SunTrust and Crawford, the Howard Boss teams, and it is thrilling. Less than 30 seconds between them, and crucial pit stops between the 10 and the 20.
The battle for the Rolex 24 comes to pit lane. Max Angelelli will get in the SunTrust number 10 Riley and take it to the finish. It should be a routine stop, but I spoke with Bill Riley. Expect to see this car twice more. This stop, they'll take tires and fuel. They'll do the same thing on the next one, and they think they will definitely have to have a splash. Unless they've gotten several laps of full course yellow, they will have to do another full stop and a splash. So it's all come down to fuel mileage in the end, guys.
There was heartache at about this time last year for Angelelli and the SunTrust team, perhaps not in 2005. As the Axe is aboard the 10 and gets the joy of going all the way to the end.
Andy Wallace has brought the 20 car into pit lane. This was a little bit unexpected. These guys wanted to stretch it a little bit longer, but we've seen some smoke out the back of the car. I quickly asked Max Crawford what was going on, and he said engine temp is a little bit high right now. However, nobody is doing anything on the front end of the car yet. They're just trying to do the tires, fuel up the car. Now, they were hoping to really stretch this out, and this could go into that fuel strategy that they had. They were only going to hope to do 2 more stops. Also, Wallace is not getting out of the car. We were anticipating Lammers getting in, so obviously things going wrong with the 20 car?
Absolutely. Their race strategy now is completely shot. They were expected to stay out for at least another 15 minutes and then only have one more stop in the race. Now they're going to have 2 more, just like the 10 car. They've got that smoke coming out from underneath, which does not look good. Chris.
Boys, we're not talking strategy anymore. The 20 car's actually been pushed behind the wall. These guys are not in this race anymore, it looks like. Andy, what's going on with the car?
Lost second gear. There's a hole in the transmission.
Are you guys going to be able to get back out there?
They took it back to the garage. Maybe they could do something, but I don't know.
It looks like the battle we were going to have is not going to happen here. So these guys have had such a great fight, but 2 hours to go, and it all falls away.
Last year it was 17.5 minutes. This year it's 2 hours and 3 minutes.
No wonder Max Crawford looks so absolutely crushed.
This has been one of the strongest cars, if not the car, for the entire race. Tony Stewart, Jan Lammers, and a very dejected Andy Wallace. And that is not where they wanted it to be. And that hands it to that man. Well, not yet. Not yet. There's still 2 hours to go, but it certainly puts Bill Riley and that man there, Wayne Taylor, the team principal of SunTrust Racing, in a very, very strong position. And they have several laps. They have now 2 laps up on the 20 and many, many laps up on the 3rd place 77 Doran Racing car. Brian Till, what do you have?
Lee, these guys down here are pitted right next to each other. So, Wayne, you saw everything that was going on next door. Now, while their bad luck is good for you guys, it also has to make you feel a little bit nervous because now you know that anything can go wrong in this race with only 2 hours to go.
Yeah, really, it's a tough break for these guys. You know, they've been running flawlessly. I did notice at their stops they were losing oil. It's a shame, but, you know, we still got 2 hours to go. So it's really, a lot can still happen.
Well, while you think a lot of teams would be jumping up and down, they're still got their fingers crossed down here. They're nervous. They know that after 22 hours of beating on these machines, anything can go wrong. They still got to make it to the checkered flag, guys.
It's very easy to think that it's only 2 hours to go, which out of 24 is not much, but 2 hours is still a lot of racing miles.
Sure.
And there's a ton of stuff can go wrong. You can see them getting down to the gearbox there on the 20 car. What a disaster. These gearboxes really are pretty stout. And unusual for them to have a problem. There you see the oil on that mechanic's hands.
It's Wayne Taylor. Look at the pressure, look at the stress.
Yeah, he's thinking, oh my God, you know.
Wayne is such a great guy. However, he does get a little stressed and he does get very nervous, and you can expect it. It's his 24th 24-hour race. That's how experienced the guy is. And he is heading for his 2nd Rolex 24 victory. He did it back in '96. It's almost been 10 years, and he could very well have 2 watches. We'll know in 2 hours' time. So will he. And for Collard and for Angelelli, it'll be their first here in Florida.
Of course, it takes just, I mean, I know he's stressed out and there's still 2 hours to go, but boy, that takes the most enormous load off their mind. And the pressure has just dropped enormously because the 77 car is way behind, 12 laps. The Leitzinger car is still going strong, and the number 4 car will almost certainly jump up to 2nd.
That's the 20 car.
That's not the sort of thing you expect to see.
One thing that Max Crawford does not do, he does not give up. They'll make the necessary changes because there's still almost a full sprint race distance to go.
Is there a suspension pickup point right near where it's cracked that crazy, do you think? 24 hours of this, especially around here, there's a lot of stress put on these suspensions on these cars.
They've now fallen 4 laps behind the SunTrust car. The 3rd place car is some 11 laps behind our race leaders. But the sister car to this one, the Howard Boss, number 4, Leitzinger, Jimmy Johnson, Elliott Forbes Robinson, they are now on the same lap as the 3rd place car. So the 4 may not be done with yet. What's happening with the 77 engine problems? And if nothing happens to this car, well, no one's got a chance of catching them. That's the simple fact. They need something to go, and exactly 2 hours left in this one. And there is the very sad sight for the 20 Sitco Crawford. When we come back, we will bring you up to date with absolutely everything that has happened in this Rolex 24 so far.
Back live at Daytona International Speedway, about an hour and 15 minutes remaining in the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and the story has taken another dramatic twist. The debut effort, a joint effort between Krone Racing and the Racers Group, has now completely finished. The 66 car is back in the garage, and there is its sister machine, the number 67. Moments ago, it pulled onto the grass on the pit lane with Nick Johnson behind the wheel, and this is what happened.
I mean, that is a big fire. A lot of smoke in there, a lot of toxicity in that smoke. Nick Johnson gets out.
You know what? Nick Johnson had the presence of mind not to pull into the pit lane where the fuel was. He drove it into the grass in the middle, which was very smart on his part, not to do a big, huge fire in pit lane.
Originally from Sweden, now living in Buford, Georgia. Johnson is a very experienced driver. In fact, he's given defensive driving lessons to the security for the king of his native Sweden.
Done a lot of damage to that car. That was a big fire. Would obviously indicate that a fuel line had become detached and the fuel pumps were still going.
What surprised me, though, David, is that it was up into the cockpit area as well as back. Yeah, I mean, it was burning that passenger side door quite badly. And a fuel line, of course, should be behind that bulkhead.
I know. It's a bit strange that it would get there
unless
so
it
quickly.
broke, you know, right at the filler neck on the side panel.
Let's take another look in slow motion as Dorsey Schrader joins us, I should add. It's pretty comprehensive at this point.
But look at this fire. Look at this fire in this area right here. That's well forward of the bulkhead, which would have protected a fuel line fire from getting up to there. It's like almost something broke right in that area.
Looks like it's actually not in the cabin as such. It's all around the cabin, but you don't see any flames actually in the cabin.
Yeah, like the fuel sprayed along the outside of the car or something. And there is Johnson, who has been taken to the infield medical center for a checkup. Be surprised if some of that toxicity you were mentioning, David, got his eyes.
A lot of plastic and rubber and all sorts of carbon fiber. When they start burning, they give out some weird.
Yeah, I was in a meltdown like that at Motorsport Canada, and it didn't suffer any burns, but I did get the toxicity of the burning carbon fiber.
Well, there's Johnson being checked over by the medics in the pit. Brian Till.
That's right, Bob. He's back to his pits, and he seems to be okay, but the medics, of course, are going to look over him and make sure he's all right. Mike Johnson, team manager here at Krone TRG. Mike, I know we haven't had a chance to talk to Nick yet. What did he say on the radio, if anything?
Well, I think he was stumbling on fuel, and all of a sudden he went to the reserve tank, and the car just lit. Why? We have no idea. Thank God he got out quickly. I mean, he jumped out of that car so fast. He seems to be okay. You know, it's such a shame because that car had such a great run all day. This crew has worked so hard, and to see it all go up like that with the last hour to go, it's just terrible. But, you know, most importantly, Nick's okay. The team's going to be back together. You know, the Krone Barber TRG team will be Krone Racing TRG team will be ready to get gas at Homestead.
Well, I know you guys have worked so hard. 8 cars, 6 of them still out there, but probably the most important thing, have you had the phone call yet from the wife?
No phone call from the wife. Everything's been perfect from her, and you know, no baby yet, you know, but hi to my wife and soon to be born baby. Have a flight out tonight to hopefully be there tomorrow morning.
Not like Mike doesn't have enough stress. 8 cars to take care of and a pregnant wife at home about to deliver, guys.
That's right. I believe her name is Cheryl, and we wish her all the best. I hope she's looking in. Mike will be home soon, and I hope you can hang on.
Well, it certainly looks like if he went to turn the reserve on and we had that sudden fire, it looks to me like the reserve tank was connected to air.
Yeah, it was stumbling, like you said, it was running out of fuel.
But if he turned the pump on, and it must have just pumped fuel straight out of somewhere.
Well, let's take a look at our leaderboards now that situation is under control. Max Angelelli has a healthy 11-lap lead over the second-place Lexus Duran of Fabrizio Garlin. And then Jan Lammers fighting his way back to the podium with that stricken Pontiac Crawford. Wolf Hensler leads in GT. What a Rolex 24 it has been for one team in particular, the SunTrust team of Wayne Taylor, Emmanuel Collard, and Max Angelelli. Great battles with the number 20 Crawford. They have had their problems bounding off the racetrack here and there, contact with some other cars, some very aggressive driving that's led to some long pit stops. and some very, very stressful hours during the night, cleaning out the side pods, looking down the pit lane to see how their rivals were doing. And then in the early morning hours of this Sunday, this great battle for the overall race lead, wheel-to-wheel between Andy Wallace and Collard. A battle eventually won by Collard before Wallace's team struck transmission problems, and that has pretty much sealed the deal for Wayne Taylor in his 24th 24-hour race. He will unofficially pick up his 3rd victory in this race, while his teammates will get their first. Bill Riley getting the whole team up on the pit wall. A few minutes ago, you heard Wayne Taylor overcome with the emotion of watching his teammates get set to roll into victory lane. The car was just in the pits for a little final gussying up, that splash of fuel you talked about earlier in the broadcast, David Hobbs.
Well, all those plans that Max Crawford had with the 20 car all went out the window when they had the gearbox failure, but I think this would have been a real nip and tuck. I think if the tactics had worked out right, these guys would have had to make that splash and go, which they've just done, and the other car wouldn't have done, and it could have been a tremendous race.
Let's go to Calvin Fish.
Here with Bill Riley, final pit stop and a nice long day. What a performance by this team. You have to be so happy, Bill, and very proud indeed.
Yeah, it was a great day. I mean, it was just a perfect race. Perfect.
Great battle with you and the Crawford. I know Max came over about 5 minutes ago and offered his congratulations. This is a great rivalry, but true friends in this business.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to be a fun battle for sure, but, you know, I've lost more than I've won, so I'm just glad to take this win.
Superb to watch. We really enjoyed it. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Let me correct myself. This is the 2nd overall win for Wayne Taylor. He also won in 1996, sharing with Jim Pace and Scott Sharp.
3.5 minutes left in the Rolex 24-hour. They had 3 race victories in the Rolex Series last year, and right down to the final race, Wayne Taylor was still in the championship hunt. Max Angelelli was taken out of that championship battle by missing 1 round, so he had to support his friend and team owner. But the SunTrust team came blasting onto the scene here 12 months ago. They couldn't quite win the title. They had this race taken from them, but not in 2005. SunTrust Racing have won the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona and will celebrate in just 3 minutes' time.
White flag will soon be in the flagman's hand and followed by the checkers.
That car looks a lot better than what you think it would look like, considering what it's come through.
Mind you, there again, those cars are stout, and we saw that incident it had in the night when it got full of the grass and the sand and it hit another car, and that front splitter just didn't budge.
Like I said at the top of the show, preparation
pretty strong,
and the ability to fix anything that might be broken will win this race today.
There was some criticism of the teams going for a 3-driver strategy. People like Mark Raffoff, the race director, the competition director, said, I think the pace is going to be too torrid. I think the 4-driver teams will be better.
I think 3 drivers is the way to go, because I had my money on either this car or the 20 car because they only had the 3 drivers. I think if you're out the car too long, if you're 4 or 5 drivers, when you're off for such a long time that you go off the boil.
And it's so hard to get a multitude of drivers with the same driving style.
Absolutely.
3 is one thing, 5 a totally different one.
You old school guys, just
we were tough.
Supermen.
And we had to walk to school.
Because we always used to do it in the snow.
In the snow.
And we only lived in
a shoe. Oh, the 03 6th place car in the overall and Daytona prototype. Another of those Ganassi racing cars. This is the target car for his target sponsored drivers.
Make it.
Manning, Dixon, and Mears.
They've had a hard day.
But all of those Ganassi cars, except the 02. The 01 looks like it's been rode hard, beat up wet, and now this one is,
I don't think he'll make it.
It's going to be okay though, because he's got
3 laps.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it'll be white flag this time around.
He'll still hold on to 6th place.
He might make it, because if he wasn't going to make it, he certainly wouldn't have turned into the chicane. He must be just idling along. You know, if you were not going to make it, you'd gone straight there. You don't got to worry about a penalty or anything now.
White flag this time by for Max the Axe Angelelli. He got SunTrust's first win last year at Phoenix International Raceway. That really gave the team a boost and launched them into the remainder of the 2004 season. Now he gets to do the final lap of Daytona International Speedway to bring the team its first in Daytona prototypes, its first 24-hour victory.
And this is well done. I mean, they could have slowed up on that last lap and not had to make the final tour. I'm glad that Max Angelelli just kept his foot down. He's going to put an exclamation point on this one.
I'm sure the 4 and a 20 car are getting ready to put themselves together now. Wow, the 73 car in. Third in GT.
Quick splash of fuel.
Oh, and he's only had a 3-second lead.
Robin Liddell shaking his head in there. He's not happy about this stop at all.
Oh,
he's backing up now.
Put it in reserve by mistake.
Oh, dear.
And they're going to lose that third spot.
They already have.
Yep.
They already have.
The 61's already gone by.
Robert Nern has taken that podium place away. Oh, that's gutting. 1 lap to go, and a podium has evaporated.
Well, if only Max Angelelli had gone a bit quicker on that last lap, the race would now be over.
Right, look at Robin Liddell. Oh, is he upset?
Take it steady, lad, down there.
Yes. We've seen cars hit the Armco on the way out of the pit lane.
Last night we did that.
So Max is on his way home. Angelelli, Collard and Taylor are your 3 drivers. The victorious car, a Pontiac power plant, back-to-back wins for General Motors, and the first ever Rolex 24 victory for a Riley Daytona prototype chassis.
This team, Angelelli and Taylor, won the Paul Revere 250 last summer here at Daytona International Speedway. So this will be their 2nd consecutive victory at the track, and they will have completed the entire spectrum of sports car formats here. A sprint of 250 miles, they win, and now the marathon, twice around the clock epic that is the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Victory for SunTrust Racing. Max Angelelli, Wayne Taylor, and Emmanuel Collard, and every single member of that team. Well done all around. We'll take a break. We'll have a very limited amount of time to talk to the winners, but we'll give it our best shot. Get down to victory lane and Calvin Fish.
Well, the SunTrust boys jump up on this number 10 machine. Victory celebration, and for Wayne Taylor, Wayne, let's have a quick chat with you, mate. You leave this game, you came back a year ago out of retirement, and 1 year down the road, you win the duel in the Rolex Grand Am Series. How does it feel?
Yeah, it's outstanding. I can't even say all the emotions that are going through me at the moment, but it's a testament to these 2 guys are the guys I really wanted this race for more than anybody. SunTrust, Riley, everybody. It was a flawless race. It was sad that the Citgo car went out because it was a great race, but we'll take the victory.
Okay, let's get a chat here with Emmanuel Collard. Congratulations, great performance. I mean, the pressure was on there in the last couple of hours. You were out there dicing it with a 20 car, and I mean, there's such a fine line between pushing the car to victory and making a mistake in traffic. Emmanuel, how was it for you?
Yes, it was very difficult for me also because I made a mistake during the night, so it was my fault. And I thought, oh, it's going to be hard to come back because it was very close. But we had a very good strategy during the race, and finally we come back, and they had a problem at the end, so it was great.
Well, congratulations. And third, and certainly not least, Mad Max. Max the Axe, get down here, buddy. How does it feel? 24-hour victory here at Daytona.
Yes, that was very close, very tough, but I couldn't believe the most difficult part was the last 2 hours. It was much easier to go flat out for 22 hours, but slowing and be careful about the traffic the last 2 hours, that was difficult.
This sets up a great championship charge. I mean, the Ganassi boys just pipped you and Wayne last year to the Drivers' Championship, but this year, I mean, it's going to be every round is going to be a great battle.
It's going to be tough. We're going to have at least 10 cars ready to win the races and the championship.
Well, congratulations. Great performance down here. What a day for the whole SunTrust team, Bob.
Indeed, and I think Max Angelelli about said it all. It's a lot easier to go flat out than it is to conserve over the last couple of hours while you're watching the seconds tick away.
Dorsey had commented on that while he was going slowly, how difficult it is to do that. And of course, it's so difficult as the tires pick up all that stuff. But he also put a finger on it there. This is going to open up a great championship this year in the whole Grand Am Cup. Because the Grand Am Championship, this could be a pretty auspicious year.
Yeah, they talk about the Ganassi guys, but don't forget about Crawford's boys. They're just equally as potent, 10 guys at least.
Let's go down to Brian Till now with our GT class winners.
Wolf Hensler and Sean Price, two of the drivers in the car down here right now. And Wolf, I watched you win 2 races last year in another series here in the U.S., and you had a smile on your face, but not like the one when you got out of the car here.
No, it was a very hard race. First time for me to do a 24 hours race, and I slept not a lot, and I was a whole night, woke up, and yes, it was very hard, but the end, the last 5 hours, they were very easy because the car 36 crashed in the night, and I'm sorry for them, but then it was an easy race for us.
Well, Dominic Farnbacher is back here. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Not a lot of guys' dad would give him the key to the Porsche, but what a great job for you.
Yeah, that was awesome. I cannot believe it yet. It's awesome. I cannot describe it with words.
Well, another guy that can't believe it, Sean Price, your first professional race ever in a car, and you wind up in victory circle at the 24-hour.
No, that's unbelievable. I was honored today to have been part of a team where Horst Farnbacher and Peter Goebel let me have a chance, and to be surrounded by such esteemed drivers who really helped me get up to speed was a real honor and a pleasure. Our crew performed flawlessly, and our crew chief David was incredible. It was really an honor. Everything's downhill from here.
And Pierre, you had a lot of time in Porsches, but for you, Porsche, there is no substitute. Your first 24-hour win.
Absolutely incredible. You know, I want to thank Horst for putting on the greatest show I've ever seen, and an incredible team and some incredible professional drivers here, which tucked us along, you know, to the podium.
Well, the word that we keep hearing down here, guys, incredible, and what a job they did. Rolex is all around.
Incredible indeed. An amazing 24 hours. 2 very deserving class winners. We've heard from the winners. Now let's hear from another significant player in this year's Rolex 24 with Calvin.
Well, he came so close last year, Bob and Tony. It wasn't the dying minutes, but the dying hours this time. What do you say this time around?
Well, it's definitely better than where we ended up last year. To be so close last year and to not even finish was a bad feeling. At least we finished this year, and to get Crawford cars second, third on the podium, really a good feeling. You know, it takes a lot of luck and a lot of breaks to win this thing, and we were a contender all night, stayed on the lead lap all day. We did everything we needed to do, so had 2 great teammates and a great race car again. I don't know what much more I could have asked for other than a little bit of luck.
All right, Tony, great job once again. Bob?
No question about it. This guy is going to be a factor for a long time to come. Time to wrap things up. We'll begin with you, Lee Diffie.
I think the most incredible thing was that we were all here, all 4 of us were here 2 years ago. There were 6 Daytona prototypes. Everyone said, could this work? The answer after today, yes.
Not only were there a lot of cars, there were a lot of competitive cars. Next year, double that.
Well, I think the whole thing just spoke for itself there. What Stewart said, Tony Stewart just said, I mean, that was an amazing race, and he's going to be back.
For David Hobbs, Dorsey Schrader, Lee Diffie, Chris Neville, Brian Till, and Calvin Fish, I'm Bob Varsha. We'll leave you with some memories from the Rolex and a final thought.